sorry, it's hello. Okay.
If you don't mind, start with me, because I have 20 minutes.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Of course. Is it okay if he starts first? He has a train to catch.
Absolutely.
All right. No worries. Yeah. Should we start? He'll start because he has a train to catch. Do you want to go second, or you can go second? Sure. Do you want to go last or third?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. All right. Okay. Great. Hello, everybody. Sorry about the delay. They haven't finished the previous session already. So welcome. Today we're going to talk about the current situation in IT in Uzbekistan, the opportunity and potential. We have, hello, hi, that's okay, please. Thank you. We have a very good panel here. We have two representatives of the government, two representatives of experts, let's say, and two representatives of big companies. So we'll get the different perspectives. We will probably hear about the situations, what the government is doing, and maybe at the end we can talk about what the private sector should be doing and kind of the communication between the two. How do we push forward Uzbekistan on the global level? I will let everybody introduce themselves since they know themselves better than I do. And we'll start with you, please.
All right. Microphone, please. Включен?
Yeah.
So yes, my name is Dilovar Mavlonov. I'm a part. Doesn't work, I think.
Oh.
It works.
Here.
No? Can you hear me? All right. My name is Dilovar Mavlonov. I'm a partner of UI. That's good now. Based in Tashkent. Well, today I will be speaking about taxes. So seeing the number of participants in the room, I can really understand that after the lunch, after an hour or so, the people prefer sleeping rather than coming to forum, especially taking into account the rainy weather. So if you turn on my presentation, please. Well, but preferably the slide number 1, please. So today I will be speaking about taxes. So yes, IT Park provides certain tax exemptions, but speaking about the tax environment in the IT infrastructure of the government of Uzbekistan, we have to think wider, right? So it is not about just providing certain benefits for the IT Park. It is a wider thing. We have to think of certain tax preferences and benefits for the whole infrastructure and for the whole stakeholders. Well, before I switch into specific stakeholders of the IT sector, I would like to stop by the operational models that we come across when we work with foreign enterprises coming to Uzbekistan and investing in the IT sector, setting up businesses within IT Park. So can you, next slide please. Yeah, here you can see that there could be a foreign business who are coming to Uzbekistan. Some of them could inject certain capital or provide certain financing to a company which could become a resident of IT Park. Yes, we agree that at the initial stage, like yesterday Steve Hoffman was mentioning that, at the initial stage, IT business in Uzbekistan particularly may not require, significant amount of capital, but anyway, certain capital will be required to be able to start a business in Uzbekistan. But we do see certain arrangements when, without having a huge capital, with a minimum capital, businesses can think of certain arrangements by providing certain advance payments to a resident of IT Park, so that the IT Park residents are able to pay the salaries of the coders or other employees of the IT Park resident. And at the same time, we do see that foreign businesses are bringing certain IT experts to Uzbekistan. At the same time, they are importing certain IT services. So the tendency during the couple of last months, especially driven by the geopolitical situation in the region, we do see that many IT companies who are setting up presence in Uzbekistan within IT Park, they are preferring to import some services and then exporting those services either out of Uzbekistan or selling those IT products and IT services within Uzbekistan, right? But some of the companies, and the number of such companies is also big, they are preferring, to hire local people. Like in one of the previous sessions, one of the participants were saying that the companies are bringing senior coders and senior IT experts and hiring, junior IT experts within the country. At the same time, we do see that some of the companies are working and developing on IT products and services which are oriented and focused on the local market, which is a good sign. So this is a context for my presentation today. So we have provided a business and operational model which is more or less common for the Uzbek IT market. The next slide, please. Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier, when speaking about IT ecosystem, we should not think about only IT Park, which is doing a great job. This is really what it is, because we are facing, many foreign companies coming to Uzbekistan, and one of the first, their perception and impression is that, wow, the IT Park provides certain very good, exemptions, not only tax related, some of them are related to migrational things, like you don't need a work permit, you don't need, if you have an IT visa, you will be able to buy an apartment without any issues, which is a good thing as well, especially considering the prices of the apartments in Uzbekistan, right? So apart from IT company and IT Park, there are a number of stakeholders, like investors, venture funds, which is not very well developed in Uzbekistan, but it is, I believe, in the nearest future. At the same time, there's certain educational IT platforms, which should be developed as well, because without having local qualified personnel who could be hired by the local IT companies, you will not be that successful, at least, right? And at the same time, the infrastructure companies, because without having a good access to the internet, you will not be able to popularize the IT professions within the country. That's why it is something that should be developed in the nearest future. At the same time, consumers. Of course, consumers are one of the main stakeholders of IT business in Uzbekistan. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the number of companies are preferring importing certain services and selling them abroad, right? And if you see the interviews of the government authorities, they have targets about the exporting of IT services, which is a good thing, right? But at the same time, we have to try to focus on the local market, to develop, the local consumers, so that they gain a kind of habit to buy IT services, which can be one of the main drivers of digitalizing the local economy, which is a key thing, right? Yeah, and the region, of course. The next slide, please. Yeah, just briefly, the benefits and the tax preferences that the IT Park provides. So that is 7.5% of withholding of personal income tax, as compared to 12%, which is the standard personal income tax rate, which is quite beneficial. Myself personally, I know a number of companies of the region, IT companies of the region, who have decided to move their businesses to Uzbekistan within the IT Park, and one of the main drivers have been, the reduced rate of personal income tax. So it is a good thing. And the corporate income tax rate and VAT rate is 0%, which is perfect. And social taxes is 0% at the same as well. And there's no any customs payments. Historically, the customs payments in Uzbekistan used to be quite high in order to protect the local producers and etc. But if you are importing certain IT-related equipment into Uzbekistan, you don't pay any customs, which is a good thing. But there is another thing that everybody should keep in mind. There is 1% mandatory fee, which all the companies, being IT residents, should pay. But there is a reduced 0.5% rate if you are selling more than $20 million per annum of IT services. So one of the ideas that we would like to bring here is that, the exporting of IT services is a good thing, as I mentioned earlier, but if you focus on the local market by, selling certain IT products and IT services within the local market, should we provide certain exemptions to those companies who are focusing on the local market? And this could, lead finally to digitalization of the economy, which is a good thing, right? So it is one of the I believe it should be one of the main goals of building IT infrastructure environment in Uzbekistan. The next slide, please. Следующий слайд. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, there are a number of stakeholders, and one of the most important stakeholder of IT sector is consumer, of course, right? And the local consumer, first of all. If you look at the some of the neighboring countries, but overall some of the OECD countries, they try to stimulate and facilitate the local consumers to start buying IT services, right? It's not about just facilitating and stimulating the IT companies, but also like building a habit for the local consumer to start buying. And one of the ideas that we had here is, what if we stimulate the local consumers to start buying not from Google, not from Oracle, not from some other companies, but from the local IT companies, which could be, we say in Russia, убить одним выстрелом двух зайцев. It is like with one shot to kill a couple of rabbits. Maybe, I hope there's no anybody from Greenpeace here, but at the same time you are, stimulating the IT companies to focus on the local market, which can bring to the digitalization of the economy. On the other hand, you are, building a habit for the consumers who will start buying IT services within Uzbekistan as well, which is a good thing, right? So one of the ideas which are already introduced in other countries is providing certain R&D, research and development exemptions or incentives, which will help you to deduct for the tax purposes more expenses that you could do, right? And yeah, there are a number of criteria for that, and the buyers, the consumers of IT services should be taxpayers, they should be under general tax regime, not kind of, simplified tax regime. At the same time, we could think of certain quantitative limits, because if you spend too much on IT services and products, then you may be in a position not to pay any taxes, right? So we should avoid such a situation. At the same time, such expenses should be driven for the income generating activity, which is one of the key things as well. So here in this slide, we have provided some of the examples of the countries. It is Russia, UK, Austria, and some other countries, including from the region. Следующий slide. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the training centers and the infrastructure, the educational, centers, there are a number of exemptions already for the training centers, those who are private training centers. For example, if you walk on the streets in Tashkent, you can see plenty of, English educational centers where they do provide certain, educational and training courses, and they don't pay any taxes. So we have to, I think these exemptions should cover IT companies as well, IT educational companies as well. So, such exemptions are conditional, so you cannot just pay taxes to save money and, repatriate certain dividends to your shareholder, but there is more, if you save taxes, you have to spend that money to, repair or reconstruct your buildings, or, reinvest or modify your educational approach, and etc. So, just to summarize this particular topic, there are a number of exemptions for educational centers that could cover IT educational centers as well. So I think this is something that we have to make the IT companies and training centers be aware of, and so that they come to Uzbekistan and start providing certain educational trainings and etc. And about the internet quality, of course, the infrastructure companies like telecommunication companies, etc. We have to think of certain exemptions, like, because I'm speaking about taxes today, right? It's one of the key drivers of IT industry success in Uzbekistan. If we provide certain exemptions to the infrastructure companies, like telecom companies, then of course they will be more like focused and have more, more willingness to invest into infrastructure, which will bring to enhancing the quality of internet, which will finally popularize any IT, professions and etc. So the next slide, please. Yeah, and the last but not the least, one of the stakeholders of IT industry is, of course, investors and particularly venture funds. Unfortunately, Uzbekistan, there are not many, funds, local funds in Uzbekistan, but we are in Uzbekistan trying to build an environment for the investors, particularly for the private equity investors, including venture funds, to bring money and to invest into IT sector. Specifically, yesterday I had a number of discussions with the IT people from Tajikistan, from Kazakhstan, who were telling that, you know, we want to come to Uzbekistan, we want to be a part of the IT park of Uzbekistan. Is there any chance to, you know, to attract certain investments in the country? Are there any platforms, you know, both state and private? Well, we cannot say that there are many of them, but at the same time, a lot of work is being done within certain, you know, for example, there's the Uzbek Direct Investment Fund, who is also thinking of investing certain money to the IT sector of Uzbekistan. So by providing certain tax exemptions to the investors, for example, providing certain tax credits so that they pay less taxes if they are investing into the IT sector, we could also help them to, you know, to invest more money into the IT sector. And a number of issues, of course, to raise here, but, you know, it is very good to understand that in Uzbekistan everything is evolving very quickly, right? So one of the points here, I decided not to delete this today. One is IT visa obtaining constraints. So, you know, a couple of days ago when I had a discussion with one of the IT park residents, they were complaining, you know, that it is very difficult to get IT visa. They promised to provide IT visas, but it is not the case still, right? But today I had a discussion with Begzod from IT Park, who mentioned that, you know, just 2 days ago, they started to provide IT visas, and since then, there are already 63 IT visas provided. So the things are changing very quickly. There have been certain complaints, but now the government and the IT Park representatives are doing quite a good job to, you know, provide certain IT visas. And a tax thing that used to be a problem as well previously, when somebody is like, within the model that I described in the very beginning, when a company is importing certain IT services and selling those IT services abroad or offering them within Uzbekistan, and if you're importing IT services, then you have to pay import VAT, which is 15%. Like it could be a huge cost for you. But now, if you're importing IT-related services, like you're working with individuals from Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, or wherever, to buy their services because they are located not in Uzbekistan, like abroad, then you had to pay import VAT at 15%. Now this is not the case anymore, which is a good thing as well. I would like to thank you from the, you know, on behalf of the, foreign enterprises, which are very happy with this particular fact. But there's a small thing which still remained. If your IT company from Uzbekistan buys certain services not related to IT directly, they still have to pay import VAT at 15%, but we hope this will not be material amounts. And the fact that we have, you know, abolished that 15% VAT is a good thing. So this is briefly it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilovar. You know, it's very interesting. It's a good overview, actually. He helped us with our presentations, I believe. So thank you very much. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Filip Stoyanovich from the Future Growth Initiative, a USAID-funded project. We do several things. We do work with the IT Park on capacity building for young girls in startups and things like this. We did an angel school about a year ago. We're actually looking at the VC funding legislation with ADB and IFC as well. We worked with the USVC, the National Fund, to, you know, set up and improve their processes and things like this. Capacity building with Astrum IT Academy, with the FinTech Association. So we're trying to do kind of this startup ecosystem building, and we do work on e-commerce and things. I think one of the things that you know, you guys are doing, the million coder thing. Yeah. I think another thing that needs to be done is kind of basic IT skills for actually the consumers. You mentioned the consumers, so for them to be more comfortable utilizing whatever it is within the country, right? One is exports, one is internal, you know, kind of culture of utilizing these things. Anyway, so I don't talk too more. Let's finish up with the experts, with Céleste, and then we'll move on to the government representatives and then the private sector at the end. Thank you. Here. Mine is the best one.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear. I think you can. My name is Céleste. I'm a policy analyst at the OECD's Eurasia division. For those of you who don't know the OECD, we're an international organization bringing together 38 countries from around the world. And our main goal is to provide a platform to discuss, identify, and promote better policies for better lives. So within that context and that mandate, we've been working with the Eurasia region, so Eastern Europe, South Caucasus, and Central Asia in the past 15 years to support the region in the implementation of policies to help private sector development and moved from planned to market economies. So within that context, digitalization is very important to promote resilience, especially in context of well, economic storms at the moment. So it's a very timely discussion we are having today in Samarkand. I would like to mention a topic of that we have been researching at the OECD in recent months. So as was extensively discussed today, Uzbekistan has made a great progress in terms of digital infrastructure development, ICT exports, ICT graduates, as well as e-government services. It's jumped, I can't remember, I think this year probably 18 places in the UN e-government index, so these are very commendable achievements. But an issue that we've been focusing on this year is, at the OECD, is the digital skills gap. So why is it important? It's because the digital skills gap is actually one of the greatest barriers to SME digital adoption. The OECD has extensively written on this topic, and we found that in Uzbekistan in particular, the issue of digital skills of the private sector is an issue. So next slide, please. So if we look at this index ranking, we can see that Uzbekistan actually ranks in the first half of lower middle income countries. But if we look at the yellow dot at the bottom, which measures business digital literacy, we can see that it's an issue. So actually, I would like to come back to the theme of this conference, which is about inclusivity. So the government has very much focused on the IT and BPO sectors, and as I've mentioned, we can already see great progress, but it is very important to make sure that other firms from other sectors do not lag behind. So we've been working this year with the government to explore the main directions where the latter could help support the private sector's digital upskilling. Next slide, please. So we've conducted interviews, fact-finding missions, discussions with the government and private sector stakeholders and international development organizations. And we've identified three areas, three challenges. The first one is related to the institutional and policy framework, which could be more supportive of SMEs' digital uptake. So what do I mean by that is that the Digital Uzbekistan 2030 strategy puts great emphasis on digital infrastructure, e-government, upskilling, civil servants and society, but does not really look at private sector digital literacy. So this is one first point. The second thing that we stumbled upon is that there is no data collection on firms' needs when it comes to digitalization. And the last aspect that we saw within this policy framework is that there are some regulatory barriers which actually disincentivize firms to go digital. So let me give you a concrete example. There's been recently a new personal data protection law which requires Uzbek firms to save their data in Uzbekistan. So this is called data residency. And I believe that the decree mentions that there is a list of countries where you are also allowed to store Uzbek citizens' data there, but this list of additional countries is not available yet. So this creates uncertainty for firms. The second aspect we've uncovered is that Uzbek SMEs do not have necessarily the knowledge of the opportunities offered by the digital transformation. So what does it mean is that if they want to look for solutions for their business issues, we saw from some studies carried out by other international partners that they would have to go to YouTube or Google. So that's one aspect. And the second aspect is that they do not necessarily know how to integrate digital solutions into their businesses. So we heard from a consultant for a state-owned company telling us that they had purchased this very expensive, fancy digital software, but they didn't know how to integrate it into the business. So it's not a silver bullet to just invest in cool digital tools. And the last point we've looked at was the tools and incentives. So Dilovar was speaking about the incentives for the IT sector and whether they could be expanded. We actually found that so support has focused very much on the IT and BPO sectors, but not so much on the wider SME population in Uzbekistan. So that's a point we found. And a cross-cutting dimension, which comes back to the theme of today's conference about inclusivity, is that women in particular may face additional barriers when it comes to acquiring digital skills because they might not be, they might not have the same opportunities as men when it comes to you know, even as a little girl, maybe you will not have the one laptop that your family can afford. So now, if we can move to the next slide, please. Yeah, so we've provided some recommendations which hopefully are concrete and actionable. So for the first one, related to the institutional and regulatory framework, we think that for the implementation of this Digital Uzbekistan 2030 strategy, it would be good to add all stakeholders that could have relevant inputs for the strategies, so private sector companies in Uzbekistan and international companies, have concrete KPIs on private sector digital upskilling beyond the IT sector, and make regulation predictable and clear for companies. So again, coming back to this personal data protection, maybe publishing this list of countries would be very easy. The second type of recommendations we suggested is related to the awareness on digitalization. So a lot of OECD countries provide what are called digital self-assessment tools. So they're like quizzes, which take like maximum 5-10 minutes, where companies can assess their level of digital literacy, and then they receive a score, and depending on the level, they're provided with concrete solutions to implement. So for example, if you start with very low, maybe you will be given some rather basic advice, or, you know, this is something that could be very useful. And another issue would be, another recommendation, would be related to promoting the acquisition of a broader set of skills, because using the internet or being digitally literate is not sufficient to harness the benefits of digitalization. And the last part of the analysis related to tools and incentives, there is already some support from the government for firms to digitalize, but I think they could be probably put on one single website or the Chamber of Commerce, which already has some tools online, or an SME agency. As incentives could be expanded, so as Dilovar was saying, maybe there could be fiscal incentives if you invest in your employees' training, for example. And or like giving them vouchers for training, or probably also supporting them in acquiring international certificates. And the last thing that I would like to mention is related to the gender lens. I mean, of course, the government has is already well aware of that issue and has been developing some programs like GAP or Tumaris. So this is very good, but I think this needs to be based on data, so it would be very useful if the government actually tried to collect data on this specific issue and the wider needs of the private sector. So that's all for me. I remain available for questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Céleste. And then this basic education for the SMEs will lead to what Dilovar was talking about, utilizing the local IT solutions and things like products and things like that. Just to add to that is that we do have a e-commerce kind of capacity building for women-owned businesses and women entrepreneurs, from the basic part to maybe some more complicated, like online onboarding eBay and things like this. We just met Art House here, which is handicrafts producers, women handicrafts producers from all over Uzbekistan. None of them are online, none of them are selling e-commerce wise, and I think that's a huge opportunity for them to sell internally, regionally, globally, eventually. So we'll go to you guys. Maybe you can begin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kamala Sabirova. I work at the Ministry of ICT as an advisor to the minister, and my functions are to attract youth and women to IT sector. I had experience being a press secretary in the Women's Committee of Uzbekistan. So to attract women, it's not just my job, but this is my mission. You know, mostly they ask me what kind of challenge you can come across during my job. The most challenge is to break the stereotypes. You know, unfortunately in Uzbekistan, they think when we talk about women in IT, they think about the language of coding or some technician sites, but in order to break these stereotypes, we need to inform people what is IT, what the opportunities in IT, especially for women. And we always open to work with the private sector, international organizations. It's really nice that private sectors, they start to think not just about doing business, but they start to develop their corporate social responsibility. Saying about development of IT sector, we need to understand that the access to education, access to people and education, I mean, IT without learning English is almost impossible. So we need to we need to open more educational centers. Thankful to IT Park, we work with IT Park. We opened several IT centers, educational centers, not only in Tashkent but in regions. So we have, in order to raise the literacy of people, especially women, we work on some projects which will attract youth and women in IT sector. So recently we started Project Gap, because gender gap is always actual question in the society. So we always happy to gather all people, I mean our partners, to fulfill this gap, because it's really important. You know, from the government, we do, so unfortunately we have some problems, and one of the problems is gender-based violence, and people must understand that in order to fight with this problem, we don't need to work just on surface, I mean some kind of events or some trainings. We need to open access to education for young ladies from the young, how to say, from school and etc. So it's really important, and giving them education, we can get rid of some problems in the society. So thankful to our partners, for example, EPAM system, they opened recently IT university in Tashkent. But you know, we need to change mindset of people because online university is, it's not usual, so it's new for us, especially for parents. So when they heard about the IT education online, they can say, they can compare because they have no information. But this is about lack of information. We need to raise raise the literacy, saying that showing the real results. And with today within ICT week, Mr. Minister Sherzod Sharmatov gave 10 grants to students for IT university. And you know, there was, among 10 students, there were 9 boys and only a lady, 1 girl. It's a pity, of course.
But that's the percent. It's like 10%.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, you are right. But anyway, we have problems, we have gaps, but together, all together, we need to fulfill. No need to invent the wheel. We have professionals. We have to use the foreign experience to communicate with each other, to raise the networking skills, and I hope with them together we can. You know, developing from the ministry, we understand that we want not to develop just IT sector. We want to make people's life better, to improve their lives. It's lifestyle, you know, and so we are open to cooperate with our international partners and private sectors. So. If you have question, please.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think this is a task not only for the government. That's why my question is, what does the private sector need to do? What does the private sector and the public sector need to do together? I think this educational component is very important. It's education for the parents, you know, the older generations. It's educational for the girls, that there is an opportunity for them, and we're happy to be working on Tumaris Tech and with Astrom IT Academy on exactly young girls to become software developers. It needs to be much more, of course. Education also in the e-commerce side of people being comfortable to buy online as well. It's not only developing e-commerce, it's on the customer side. So there is plenty of work for all the stakeholders around that needs to be done, and I absolutely agree. And it is about 10% women, young women in tech, which is extremely low, and that needs to increase, but it takes a longer time. And developing the local, like you said, IT communities, IT services is not only for exports, it's also for internal consumption. It's for all the sectors you have. Traditional sectors as well need to use IT. So it's a bigger issue than just exporting IT. And again, thank you very much for that. Please.
Thank you very much. My name is Sultan. I work as the head of the international department at IT Park Uzbekistan. Actually, there were very much good insights and very good ideas on improving the sector and on how to what type of incentives that are needed. And I would be grateful if you could share after this panel session the presentation. And actually, I'm very grateful to Strategist for making this happen, for bringing this many people close together and exchanging ideas, discussing things. So very much thanks, very big thanks to Strategist. So I would like to, even though Mr. Dilovar mentioned a lot about IT Park, about its incentives, I would like to mention a little bit more about the details, about the history of it, and what is our vision in terms of education, in terms of breaking the stereotypes, as Ms. Sobirova said. If we could turn on the presentation, I would be grateful. If not, okay. The presentation can be placed or not? Okay. So I will start. The IT Park was created in 2019 under the initiative of the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Its main focus was and is to develop the sphere of information technologies, to create a critical mass of IT and BPO specialists, not only in Tashkent, but in the whole Republic. And that's why the whole executive team, together with the Ministry for the Development of Information Technologies and Communications, is paying a lot of attention to the regional development, not only in Tashkent, but to the regional development and educational projects. So the IT Park was established as a special economic zone for the IT and BPO companies. And now Uzbekistan is trying to be, is moving forward to be seen as a newly emerging BPO and IT destination, newly emerging destination, right? And this year, on an annual basis, we hold the ICT Week, Uzbekistan's forums. But this year, we wanted to make it like happen really big, and we're very glad to invite all the guests from the international representatives of big companies, and yeah. So the IT Park is the tax-free zone, like. Not fully tax-free, but as Mr. Dilovar said, the IT and BPO companies that are in the 18 directions which are approved by the expert committee of IT Park are exempted from paying all the corporate taxes, apart from the personal income tax, which is lowered from 12% to 7.5%. And when I'm talking about those 18 directions, this is mainly, for example, right now we're focused more on the software development. Right now we're focused more on the service, not the hardware part, but the service part, yeah. And more about the export of services, export of call center services, data entry services, etc., through the means of internet channels, as well as the software development, mobile applications development, the education in the sphere of information technologies. Yeah. So currently we have, if you go to the next slide, please. Следующий slide. Currently we have more than 950 companies, and at least 15% of these companies are from abroad, and the majority of the companies are concentrated, are in the field of education in the sphere of IT and the software development, right? We have lots of very prestigious, very popular companies which have offices all across the globe, like EPAM Systems, Exadel, iTransition, Qlix, ITCarta, and so on. Yeah, and in regions also, when we started in 2017, as you can see, we only had 11 companies, and it started steadily growing since we started paying a lot of attention to creating conditions on the regions. Now we have at least 250 companies in the regions, as well as 160 plus companies which are specialized in the education in the field of IT. Why education? In fact, IT Park is putting huge effort on the development of education, because if there is the literacy, if there is the right education, there is the development. Among the exporters, we have, among the resident companies, we have more than 270 exporting companies. And as you can see, the export volume in this year, only in the third quarter of this year, has been achieved $82 million. And out of this $82 million, 49% of it comes from the software development, mobile applications development, and IT services, export of IT services, and 47% from the business process outsourcing. And our main export destinations are, of course, the more than 80% of the export goes to the United States market, and then United Kingdom and some other European countries. The next slide, please. And on preferences, yeah, I have mentioned the preferences and other preferences for foreign companies that we have launched this year. Actually, in March, we've had a large influx of international companies as well as the IT and BPO specialists, and the entire companies actually started shifting their headquarters from Minsk, from Moscow, from Kiev to Tashkent. Yeah, and we have seen a large influx, and according to what we know, which number we have accepted, it's at least 3,000 people who have relocated to Uzbekistan through the help of us. Yeah, and such programs included like Tashrash. It's a complex support program of the relicants, of the expats which are coming to Uzbekistan, which included, for example, going to the airport, meeting with the tablet, IT Park providing them with a SIM card, 10 gigabytes of internet, like for them to stay in touch with their families, with their close people, and being able to transport them to any location in Tashkent or in any other region, and providing constant support. And the team of IT Park, together with the ministry, didn't sleep for days for the people to come and for them to feel safe, to feel really good, and to be able to adapt to the life in Uzbekistan. We have also conducted different entertaining programs and cultural programs like mock weddings, etc.
Invite the fake wedding.
You heard? Exactly. So more than 300 people. They were so much thrilled to watch, because it's the first time in their lifetime that they're seeing these national instruments, the food, and it was really different for them, and they all liked. And the majority of these people and the companies stayed here. This is a little bit information about how the Tashrash happened, but right now we are also experiencing a big influx, not only from those countries, but also from the United States, from India, from Bangladesh, etc. We have the program called One Stop Shop. This is the service for any international company which wants to enter the market. We create a legal entity for them. We create a bank account. We file their taxes in the tax office. So it's all the paperwork, all the bureaucracy is being done, and all this process is being done by IT Park for the company to be launched in Uzbekistan, and to apply their business plan to the residency at IT Park, so that they can get the tax incentives. The IT visa is given to the three categories of people. The first category is IT investors, investors in the field of IT. The second one is the founders, the owners of the resident company of IT Park. And third is the IT specialists. And the IT visa is valid till 3 years, with the possibility of extension, which gives hassle-free entry and exit to Uzbekistan, as well as Mr. Dilovar mentioned, no any limitations in cost of purchasing the real estate, etc. And the equal social rights as the citizens of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Yeah, I won't go too much into the details. Maybe next slide regarding the infrastructure. This year, maybe you're aware, we have launched the first part of the IT Park complex. It's on the territory of almost 7 hectares. The president paid a visit himself to this complex, where he met with a number of with a number of investors and companies, and he learned about the conditions which are being created for these companies. Yeah, as you can see, there are going to be in this IT park cluster. There are going to be office buildings, co-working zones, conference halls, as well as the university. Yeah, together with EPAM, we have launched this year the first digital university in Uzbekistan in the field of information technologies, IT Park University. The whole study plan and the expertise is provided. Thanks to for EPAM. So EPAM system has done tremendous job in assisting us with this mission. Yeah, so across Uzbekistan, we have IT Park branches, 14 branches in all the 14 regions. And if you look at Uzbekistan as a whole, there are 205 administrative districts. And in each of these districts, there are IT centers. An IT center is a learning center in the sphere of information technologies. They provide courses on IT IT English, computer literacy, you know, and these courses are available to everyone. There are no any age limits. Anybody can come and learn and get an access to the high quality of education. Especially this is very applicable in the regions. If you look at Uzbekistan, if you look at Tashkent, there are many BPO companies. There are many language schools, etc. But if you go far in a more far away region of Uzbekistan, for example, Karakalpakstan in Muynak, yeah, the conditions are not as in the more civilized cities of Uzbekistan. And even in those parts, in those remote parts, we're trying to create the conditions so that the younger people will have an access to the high quality education through our programs. And IT Center is not the only program. There are different programs like 1 million Uzbek coders, as you've mentioned. More than 2.5 million people have graduated. There are four directions: data analysis, front-end programming, full stack programming, and Android programming. Yeah. And now we're on the second stage of launching this 1 million Uzbek coders with Coursera in order to create even more even much bigger number of the IT specialists in the country, as well as the BPO specialists. Yeah, across Uzbekistan we have 15 BPO centers. We have employed so far we have employed more than 10,000 specialists, 10,000 employees through our 125 BPO companies. Yeah. The next slide, please. So yeah, briefly about the education. We have 58 IT universities, which have 6,000 graduates annually. And in those 205 IT centers, which I've mentioned, there are more than hundreds of thousands of graduates. And in 1 million Uzbek coders, as you can see, more than 2.5 million. Apart from this, we have universities like Tashkent University of Information Technologies, Inha University, which was established in 2014, which is the Korean university specialized in information technologies, and it's actually one of the big players in supplying the companies, the big tech corporations, with highly qualified professionals. Yeah, as well as Amity University, IT Park University. So yeah, together with the Ministry for the Development of Information Technologies and Communications, and with the help of the government of the Republic of Uzbekistan, IT Park, we're all moving forward to achieve our goal to have the Uzbek market, Uzbekistan, as the IT hub in the Central Asian region, and increase our export potential and achieve the number of $1 billion of export by 2028. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, the minister mentioned that vision and then goal, and it's. I hope you can do it in 5 years. It's not obviously that easy, but I mean, with the programs you're doing, it's Thank you. Thank you. The program you're doing all over, it's very useful, and that's what the companies are looking for. The more people that are involved, the better, of course. Now we'll go to the multinational companies from your perspective and how you are involved. I know you are very involved, but also we should think about kind of the local, smaller IT companies, how they should be involved, and how do we bring them even further along into the mix and the ecosystem. So.
Thank you. Меня зовут Юлия Яковлева, являюсь руководителем офиса компании Exadel в Узбекистане. Это международная глобальная компания. Мы сегодня очень много говорили о трендах, говорили о том, что делает государство и что делает IT-парк в развитии человеческого потенциала. В принципе, если мы рассматриваем географически весь регион Центральной Азии, то самый большой и основной ресурс сосредоточен именно здесь, в Узбекистане. Это порядка более 34 миллионов населения, по сравнению даже с тем же с Казахстаном, где порядка 19 миллионов, Таджикистан около 10 миллионов, и Кыргызстан это 6,5 миллионов, то есть Узбекистан в человеческом потенциале и в тех усилиях, которые делаются по развитию этого человеческого капитала в рамках направления IT, он огромен. Также не нужно забывать о нескольких моментах, с которыми сталкивается как раз-таки бизнес и вообще вся сфера IT, для того, чтобы максимально продуктивно представлять свои услуги на внешние рынки и даже разрабатывать программное обеспечение внутри рынка. Это в первую очередь это IT-инфраструктура, потому что мощности развиваются таким образом, что они удваиваются каждые полгода. Компьютерные мощности удваиваются каждые полгода. Но наши каналы интернет, они не удваиваются каждые полгода, они должны как минимум удваиваться, а так и утраиваться, чтобы мы успевали за этими тенденциями. Также, я думаю, я немножко о тех проблемах, которыми больше всего сталкивается бизнес. Проблема с тем, что мы сейчас очень сильно ориентированы на аутсорсинг, и у нас слабо развиваются собственные продукты, продуктовая линейка – это слабое место Узбекистана. В тот же Казахстан, он больше развит как продуктовая страна, которая развивает именно продукты. Узбекистан больше ориентирован все-таки на аутсорсинг, и очень мало развиваются местных продуктов, но ориентация, думаю, у IT-парка на то, что рано или поздно мы придем к собственным продуктам. Но прежде чем прийти к собственным продуктам, нам нужно подумать о том, что с чем мы сталкиваемся и мы, и любая небольшая компания в Узбекистане, это IT-бренд страны. И он очень слабый. Можно сказать, его почти не существует за пределами СНГ. То есть в СНГ, да, мы популяризируем, уже хорошо знают там в России, там, в соседних странах, но на дальние зарубежья, куда мы в основном продаем наши продукты, это в первую очередь это Соединенные Штаты Америки, это ЕС, это Арабские Эмираты, это те страны, которые появляются основным потребителем продуктов. И здесь нужна большая поддержка как раз-таки государства, IT-парка в том, чтобы максимально популяризировать страну как страну для IT, которая предоставляет лучших IT-разработчиков, у которой самые лучшие благоприятные условия. Потому что то, что мы здесь видим и постоянно говорим о том, что огромные льготы предоставляются компаниям на территории Республики Узбекистан, отсутствие практически налогового бремени, это все отлично. Но сейчас основная проблема как раз-таки в том, чтобы продвинуть это теперь на рынке. На международные рынки. Следующая проблема, наверное, которая как раз-таки и привязана еще к тому, что у нас есть проседание по бренду – это слабые soft skills у тех же предпринимателей. Когда мы идем презентовать свою страну, свои продукты, мы чаще всего, эти скиллы у нас очень сильно отстают, а они отстают и у разработчиков. Чаще всего, ну это, наверное, у нас в ментальности еще заложено, что разработчик у нас в командах, мы очень сильно, скажем так, поощряем разработчиков для того, чтобы они презентовали как можно больше свою страну и себя, продавая себя на рынке. Потому что если мы не презентуем, если мы не продаем элементарно свои скиллы, мы не можем распространить информацию о том, что, насколько у нас хорошие разработчики. Потому что тот разработчик, у которого хорошо подвешен язык, который умеет донести, он всегда в тренде. А тот разработчик, который будет гениальным, но не может доказать это, не может рассказать, то есть, соответственно, он продается хуже. Следующее – это то, с чем чаще всего мы видим на тех же самых небольших мероприятиях, это когда мы собираемся с IT-компаниями, это не готовность конкурировать на открытых рынках. Это когда небольшие компании, то есть лет 5 тому назад самая большая компания составляла 120 человек, по-моему, максимум на рынке IT в Узбекистане. Это была самая большая IT-компания. Сейчас 1000 уже, нормальная компания, то есть можно и больше. То есть рынок развивается гораздо быстрее, чем успевают внутренние небольшие компании, частные компании, которые потом не могут продать свои продукты. И вот с этим, я думаю, здесь очень важно развивать как бренд страны, так и развивать программы, которые помогут внутренним компаниям, внутренним предпринимателям, небольшим частным компаниям максимально популяризировать себя и популяризировать, продавать, прокачивать как раз-таки те soft skills, которые помогут им продвигаться на рынке. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. I think the visibility and the visibility of Uzbekistan and Central Asia globally is absolutely a question to be talked about. And this is one of the things about exports and collaborations and knowing about the capabilities of Uzbekistan and Central Asia. So absolutely, that's something that needs to be tackled. I think one of the things is coming back to the beginning of my question is about the private sector in general and the private public sector in general. How does that collaboration work? How do you develop these brands and even strategies together and things like this? That's kind of the dialogue that needs to happen to set the stage. All of the other countries have these things. The minister said about the 1 billion. There needs to be a strategy to get the 1 billion. It's not just a target. It needs a lot of steps, and it needs a lot of companies like yours, but also smaller ones and so on. So absolutely, thank you very much. And last but not least, Mepam, please, you have the honor.
Okay, thank you. So let's, I can talk about a short story about our history, how EPAM came to Uzbekistan, why did we decide to develop our delivery office here. So the decision was made 3 years ago after the visit of Arkady Dobkin, our CEO. He was invited to Uzbekistan by IT Park administration, and Arkady have never been here before this invitation, and it's really a big problem we faced when started to develop the company. Nobody abroad knows about Uzbekistan much as we want, and we really need to promote and advertise that we as a country with open-minded people, that we're ready to cooperate with foreigners and so on. And I can bring you the numbers, how did we grow First year we started from the 5 developers 3 years ago, and by the end of the year there were 20. Then next year we made twice growth, ended the year by 40, and it was what was the problem? First one, the low capacity of local market. We couldn't find the senior major guys locally to build our core team, and it was difficult to interview the bunch of people and select the best one. From the other side, again, I can repeat that it's a low awareness of country abroad, and it's difficult to bring here the project when the customer, your client, didn't heard about Uzbekistan, nothing, and or if he heard it in a bad side. For example, recently I heard a question for me. I know that Uzbekistan produce cotton, and autumn is a cotton season in your country, and yes, I confirm that we produce cotton much, and famous country in this field. And the next question was, so how will you deliver, how you will provide services for us if cotton season starts? So they even now they thought that everybody in Uzbekistan gather cotton in autumn, and no other work can be done in this period. So we should give more information. We should prove that country changed. And the exponential growth happened after 2 years. We increased the headcount from 40 to 350, and right now we are close to 100 engineers, 1,000 engineers locally. About 30% are our relocated employees. They made a decision to change the location from Russia and Belarus, but they have many options to choose. I can say that Turkey or Poland is most popular destinations for people, but some of people made a decision to investigate something new. We looks like an exotic country for them, and after they meet me, meet Uzbek local society, they made a decision to stay here for at least 1 year, or maybe we can cooperate more longer. And really big thank you to IT Park, what they did during this spring, help with people relocation, help in any other many questions, and but it's not time to stop. We should speed up, because we should take under consideration that countries around us are also working on IT sector development. As you know, Kazakhstan started Astana Hub, and they provide many benefits, and we should always compare and play in open competitor market and provide more benefits locally to bring here more experts. And certainly back to problem of our local market, we have no enough major senior engineers locally, and the relocation program is one of the options to bring expertise locally and give a chance for our local juniors to grow faster. And we should continue this direction, and so we have all chances to become the leader country in the region, at least in Central Asia. But I believe we can make much more.
Thank you very much. I think we heard a lot of diverse ideas and, well, successful things that are happening currently, but ideas that we can develop even further. I think you're in a unique situation that you can bring the private and the public sector together to kind of have this strategy towards the 1 billion. I wish you good luck. USAID programs are here, and there will be many more, obviously, to come. So hopefully we can work together in the future. Thank you for strategies for this session. And good luck to the next one, the last one. Sorry we're a bit late. Thank you very much to everybody here. Thank you.